Hi, my name is Luis, and I read the book Native Son by Richard Wright, and I read it through the ethnic lens. So basically, it's just about race, ethnicity, obviously, and like the background of a certain person or certain people. And I read it from the protagonist, or not really protagonist, but the main person, Bigger. So we just follow his life and how he reacts to certain situations. So yeah, that's basically what the book is, and yeah, it's very interesting. So what I got from the book is that no matter the circumstances we grow up in, we can't break free from them. So we see this throughout Native Son because Bigger comes from this bad neighborhood south side of Chicago, right when it all seems to go right for him. The influence of his background, since he was poor and all that, and what the white people portray him and his race brings him to an all-time low or all-time lows. So I got this from Bigger being afraid of the company of white people because he thinks that they are like gods and that they never really interact with them except for like a liquor store owner because he serves a liquor store in the neighborhood. And then when he is with white people, he doesn't know how people portray him as. So the pieces of evidence I used was that Gus and him talking about how white people rule this world and how they are the only ones that can fly and do everything that they want. Also, another piece is when Mary, Jan, and himself went to the fried chicken restaurant. So these pieces, or like first the piece shows that the Bigger cannot really comprehend the idea of a superior race. By talking to Gus about white people can do anything, indicating that other races can't do what they can since they are white and privileged. Also, this evidence shows us that when he actually comes into a real life situation with not just one but two white folk, he's like embarrassed because of he because they might like expose him or like ruin his street cred, and then B, because of where he grew up in south side of Chicago. So these are important because he doesn't want anyone to see him with these people, that he might lose his street cred, as I said, and that he might look like a sold out to work with white people, as he is the chauffeur for the Dalton family. So the second piece is important because he is also embarrassed of where he grew up and lived throughout his life. So he doesn't want Mary and Jan to think of him as another typical black guy from the streets. So this all connects back to the theme by showing us how he, and also Gus, but mainly Bigger, perceives white people, and how Bigger might think white people view him as a person and as a black man. So another point I like to say is that Bigger's actions throughout the book may have been from overreaction. However, those actions made him in the situation he wished he would like never want to be in his whole life. So some piece of evidence I found was that when Bigger had Gus up against the wall and he was threatening him, saying all these type of things like "I'll slit your throat" and all that, those are found on page 37 to 40. And then also when Mrs. Dalton came into the room, and then that just made Bigger like freak out and like do some dumb things, and that ultimately led to Mary's death, which is also located on page 86 to 87. So these pieces of evidence show how he reacted to certain situations, and due to his past history, they weren't like good ones. For the first piece, his action to threaten Gus inside the pool room shows how Bigger deals with his fear. He fears the thought of robbing the one liquor store because of the white man that owns it, because he is afraid of getting arrested for robbing a white person. So in order to hide his fear, he pretends to show no fear and take out his anger on Gus, since Gus said he doesn't know whether to go with him or not to do the robbery. The consequence of his action was that now his friendship with Gus is in jeopardy, and makes things awkward between them. So, for the other piece, Mrs. Dalton walks in on Bigger carrying the drunk Mary to her bed, and Bigger froze in fear, thinking that he would get in trouble if Mrs. Dalton finds out her daughter Mary got drunk. So without any hesitation, Bigger puts a pillow over Mary's face and forces it down, like a little bit too much. Little did he know, like, after Mrs. Dalton left the room, he lifted the pillow and just found her dead. He, like, suffocated her. So this action shows that he couldn't face the consequences of just a simple night out. But no, he had to take matters in his own hands and accidentally kill Mary, and suffers the worst of consequences. These events led up to ultimately the second murder, but this time Bessie was the victim. After certain events, like after that murder, these all then he goes to jail and waits a while, and then after going to court he gets sentenced to the death penalty. Like, that's the worst. So these all connect to the theme, since his background of being poor and having hot temper, and then he let his emotions get to him and take over situations that could have been resolved by, like, not even touching it. So he kind of, like, screwed himself over because throughout the past he can't really manage to do it. So in conclusion, the text is basically telling us no matter the circumstances we grow up in, we can't break free from them. By showing us Bigger's bad neighborhood in Chicago and his background and how they influence what the white people portray him, his race, and his actions that ultimately led him to his all-time low, death, basically. So, through the ethical lens, the text shows us that Bigger's background is basically just him growing up in a poverty-based city, or part of the city, and then so we see him just struggling because he is a black man, and he just struggles throughout to get to the social ladder. Right when he reaches the point of, like, I guess highest achievement for this, he just couldn't handle what was to come, and he just let, like, his bad reputation and habits take over him, and just ultimately just killed himself after killing 2 other people. So yeah, my name's Luis, and yeah, I'm done.